The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for attending our webinar today. My name is Jim Patterson with Microsoft, and I'm joined today by Matthew Willey. I'll be talking about some concepts today regarding accelerating Office 365 and Microsoft Teams value with a hybrid project and portfolio management solution. And Matthew's going to assist me with a live demonstration of those capabilities in action. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. The audio will be on mute, but you can ask questions via the question panel in GoToWebinar. We will try to answer those as best we can during the course of the webinar. If for some reason we miss answering any of those questions, we'll send you a note or an email or contact you with answers after the webinar is completed. If for some reason you get distracted or pulled away, don't worry. We are recording the webinar, and we'll be sending you a copy of not only the slides, but a link to the recording so that you can watch it on demand after the fact. So with that, let's get started on the topic today. What's driving the needs for the things that we're talking today is that the work landscape is changing out there in the market today. Teams are choosing their own tools due to the proliferation of cloud tools that are available and the fact that people can download or link into tools of their choosing. There's a variety of tools out there that they're choosing to do work in a way that's conducive to the way they want to do work. So they can work how they want and do the things that are most conducive to the types of work that they're doing. And the methodologies or the frameworks people are using for work execution are changing as well. Analysts are saying that as of this point, 73% of companies are now using agile methods for managing projects, which is ever increasing. But still, almost a like number, 69% of companies are still using predictive project management, more of the waterfall types of PPM approaches that we've had in the past. So the key is these tools need to be flexible, or even in some cases, people are innovating different tools to address these different methods and approaches to doing work. Also, our teams want simple and visual tools. Even though technology behind the scenes is getting more complex, more robust, and more uh, capable, doesn't mean that we want our user experience to be difficult or complex. We want the things that we're working with and the tools we have to be simple and visual. You know, we want to be able to start fast without a lot of training and prep and ramp up time in order to become effective with the tools that we're using. And the mindset of the workforce is being influenced by the fact that a higher and higher percentage of millennials are in the workforce. They're used to an app culture, you know, one where you get on your phone and download an app and start doing things right away without training or complexities of the client server tools we used to have in the past. Interesting facts is that 50% of the workforce will be comprised of millennials by 2020, just a year from now. And analysts and the projections are that 75% of the workforce will be comprised by millennials just 5 years later than that in 2025. So meaning we have to have tools that address this audience and are tools that they want to use to help them get their work done. So the other part is that our key processes now span the enterprise, cross-functional projects and work efforts and initiatives, geographically dispersed teams. Teams are not always co-located in doing the work that they want to do. And also it may require different technologies getting involved in order to effectively do the work that's required. So we need to be able to adapt and automate our tools in a way that help these disparate teams and these cross-functional teams and be able to have them work more effectively together. They say that 79% of companies need cross-functional collaboration in order to execute and fulfill on their projects and initiatives. But the trend is that large organizations are more and more enabling non-IT staff to perform integrations between tools, and that'll grow to 65% by 2023. The idea there is that not using IT or developers to create those integrations, but have easy to connect tools so that even business users with some savvy can actually make those integrations happen and be more collaborative in the way they do work. Ultimately, that's driven by the fact that there is now a proliferation of tools across the organization. An example of just an organization that we worked with, if we look at the capabilities or the functions down the left side and the cross-functional units that we have across the top of this table, you'll notice that the variety of tools that are in there, whether they be Outlook, whether they be SharePoint, Power BI, PowerPoint, Excel, Microsoft Project, non-Microsoft tools like Jira or other things like that, are all being used to do different point functions within the project and portfolio management process. Not always the most effective way to do things, and not the easiest way to aggregate data and report on data that is actually being worked on in this disparate variety of tools. So with that, we'd like to introduce OnePlan. OnePlan really is designed to connect strategy, meaning your portfolio management and top-down planning of the things that you want to do, with ultimately the tools that you're going to use to help execute on the initiatives and the projects that you've decided to work on. Not limiting you, like we said earlier on in the slides, to a particular tool set, but let teams work with the tools that they want to. Be able to do that in a way and be quick to get up with pre-configured solutions so people don't have a lot of prep work, configuration and setup time, and training time in order to get rolling and becoming effective in meeting the needs of the organization. OnePlan really allows us, within the context of Office 365 as our focus today, to deliver all the capabilities that people are looking for and work with the execution tools that they deem necessary or the best fit for them. So the modules that OnePlan provides to provide these capabilities from a top-down perspective or more of a portfolio management perspective is portfolio planning. That is portfolio visibility. That is prioritization and optimization, ranking and scoring, and just being able to optimize the portfolio and align it with the objectives of the organization. There's resource planning and capacity planning to determine what's needed and the loads that we have currently taken on. And as we evaluate whether to take on more work, how are people already committed and are we over or under allocated in that fashion? And the same thing with financial planning, being able to track budgets and revise forecasts and track actuals against how we're doing and seeing if we're staying on track within the context of our planned budgets for execution financially within our projects and our initiatives allows us to take that kind of visibility as well. And then if we tie that to the execution pieces, bottoms up from the work management perspective, being able to use the tools that you want, whether they're Microsoft tools like Office 365 Planner, the new project for the web, Microsoft Project on the desktop, or using more agile tools like Azure boards within the Azure DevOps solution, or things like Jira that are popular out in the marketplace, and provide status reporting and other things from the bottom up so that we can actually have a holistic view of these things and have it become more of a natural output of the process rather than us constructing status reports as we go on through. The idea is to be able to provide a fully functional system that has the capabilities that you're looking for within your particular process. And the power here is that, in the concept here in the topic of the webinar today, is that we want to empower teams with a fused Microsoft user experience. So when we talk about using OnePlan and the planning tools of your choice, we can render this or deliver this to the end user in a variety of ways. Right here, we're showing that it can be delivered via things like Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Project Online, Azure DevOps, Microsoft Dynamics 365, and SharePoint. But the focus of our webinar today is the fact that we can really deliver this through the tools that we already have in place. We're going to focus today on how this is delivered via SharePoint and how it's delivered via Microsoft Teams. Part of the rationale there is there's such a huge footprint of Office 365 users. All of them have SharePoint or SharePoint Online as part of that mix. And now Microsoft Teams is now officially the most quickly adopted tool set in the history of Microsoft, which is saying something given Windows and Office and all that history there. Over 20 million users are using Microsoft Teams today. So Microsoft Teams, for those of you that are not familiar, is really designed to be a hub for teamwork in Microsoft 365. It allows you to have a common forum to bring things together in a variety of dimensions of communication and information, as well as tool sets that you might want to use. It has persistent one-on-one and group chats, both for individual chats and chats within meetings. It allows you to have powerful online meetings, so you can have web meetings, both video and non-video alike. It has enterprise calling and voice, so that you can communicate via voice over Teams, as well as built-in Office 365 apps, so that within the context of Teams, while you're doing everything else, you can call up and render the apps that you want to use most within the context of that Teams environment. Overall, it's a powerful platform. What you'll find is that more and more tools and capabilities keep being added to Teams, and you get to incorporate not only just Microsoft tools, but other non-Microsoft tools have native connections now into Teams as well. So when we put this in the terms of project management and project and portfolio management, you can do all of the things you need to do in managing a project within the context of Microsoft Teams as a hub for all those capabilities, whether it be your plans and schedules, your documents, your workflows, your communication and chatting, all the other types of information, financials and otherwise, that you manage around projects. They can be centralized in the use of Teams or other collaborative capabilities within Office 365. So Microsoft has done a nice job of bringing these things together. So in the center here in this graphic, you look at Teams at the center, and in the upper right, left, you could see that the SharePoint document libraries and collaborative information can be brought to the forefront within Teams and accessed from within there. Things like OneNote to keep your meeting minutes and other notes regarding your projects and initiatives are brought together in there. The reporting in Power BI allows you to access the reporting specific to your projects or your portfolios right from within the context of Teams. And Microsoft also has Microsoft Project and the new project for the web that can be rendered and accessible right from within the Teams interface, as we see here. Now, adding more than just the execution of project for the web like we see up here, we can now connect OnePlan into the Teams hub as well. So the capabilities we talked about earlier on, the portfolio management capabilities, whether it be portfolio views and timelines like we see here, roadmaps, or even more prioritization types of capabilities can be all handled right within the context of Microsoft Teams. The resource management or capacity planning that's provided by OnePlan is also available right from within Teams. And even the financial management, the detailed financial tracking and planning that you might do, is another capability that's also available within Teams. And all of the things we're going to talk about here today are also accessible from within SharePoint itself if we choose to deploy OnePlan and those capabilities the way you're going to see here, and as Matthew is going to demonstrate for you shortly. So with that, we'd like to go in and give you a demonstration of OnePlan and how it is deployed and how it is used in Office 365 and within the context of SharePoint and within the context of Microsoft Teams. So with that, Matthew, take it away.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jim. All right, so I'm logged in here into Office 365 and currently into a SharePoint site collection. Within that SharePoint online site, you can see I have a nice home page here where I can put links to different things, my ideas, my work, my backlog, my reports. If you're utilizing Yammer for your business communication streams and conversations, then you can post those in here on your home page, so on and so forth, as well as any documents, events, things like that. But really, when we jump into it, let's get into the actual process at hand. So a lot of your projects, the work buckets that are going on within your organization, start out as ideas. And so what we can first do is I can come into the ideas list here, and you can see all of the different ideas that have been submitted by many different people, whoever has access to this. And that's up to you from a security perspective to give the right group of people and or open this up to, say, everybody in your organization, possibly even outsiders, to come in and put in ideas or requests for new projects. When you do that, there's a high level of information that you have to fill in at that point. In this case, we're using the WSJF, or weighted shortest job first scoring method, of prioritizing these requests as they come in. So you can see I have some WSJF scores that are calculated based off of other inputs that people put in, like what's the business value of the risk, what's the risk of this, so on and so forth, and it'll calculate that up for me. I can also put in some high-level cost information, estimated costs and estimated benefits that I think I might get from these projects. And there's also a star rating option in here as well if you want people to actually be able to come in and vote on these ideas. basically the way the process works is as these ideas are going in, people fill out the form with the information, these go in, and then you can utilize the information that's been put in to do some high-level prioritization. And when you're ready to do so, you can promote any particular idea into becoming, in this case, an epic or a program / project, when you're ready to kind of push it to the next state from this big funnel of all these ideas that are coming into. At that point, then I'm going to go jump into my epics list over here. So this is a list of all my epics / projects. Depending on what your terminology you're using there in this hybrid world is, we can configure that to match your terminology. If you call these initiatives or something else, then we can configure it accordingly to match that. But basically, I have a list of all these different epics and projects here, and we can see the status of these. There's overall health, budget health, schedule health, so on and so forth, and other metrics that we can be tracking around these. And this is my place to see all of my different projects and what's going on, the status of those, so on and so forth. But before this project can become approved, there's probably more information that we need to put in. So right now, even though we approved the idea saying, yes, we want to, look at this more, we're willing to take this to the next step, we haven't yet said, yes, we're going to go ahead and do this. And so the first thing that I would do here is you might want to build out a high-level resource plan and or financial plan for this particular epic / project. And so to do that, I can utilize the one plan resource planner and financial planner to do that on top of this epic here. So the first thing I'll do is I'll go ahead and build out my resource plan. When I'm building out my resource plan, I have a couple of different options. Right now I'm building this out by month, so I'm saying what resources I think I'm going to need and how much I'm going to need them in any particular month. But you could do this by quarter or by year if you didn't want to do as detailed of plans. Right now we're looking at this in FTEs or full-time equivalents, meaning if I put a 1 in here, that's saying I need 1 full-time person. But I could switch this and do this by percent. So I could say 100% or 50%, or I could do it in hours if I chose to do so as well. I need this particular resource or type of resource for, say, 200 hours, those types of things. You can plan in here using generic resources or named resources. Generic meaning I don't yet know who I'm going to need. I might just put in a generic like developer row here, or in this case I can actually plan by teams as well. I think I'm going to need a particular team 1 or my infrastructure team or something like that for a particular period of time. And or if you already know I'm going to need Lori Weston on this project, then I can go ahead and plan with actual named resources right from here as well. As you're planning, you'll notice it's highlighting things in red, yellow, green, and such, so you can see where you're going to have over allocations, where you're going to have issues as you start to do this planning, so you can try to plan around that a little bit more up front. Once you have your resource plan together, then you can go ahead and build out your budget if you choose to do so. And the very first step of that is you probably want to get your labor costs. And so to do that, I can simply come here and hit import and import from that resource plan that I just created, and it will then calculate out all of my labor costs for me based off of that resource plan and blended rates that I would have set up beforehand. So I don't have to try to do that calculation outside the system in an Excel spreadsheet or something like that and then come in here and plug it in. Just saves me some time, gets me my labor costs. From there, then I can key in any of my other different cost categories needed. For example, things like materials and supplies, travels and expenses, contract software, other. And this is all configurable. So we would match this to your cost categories. And then we can group this up into different ways like capital expenses and operational expenses, as you can see here, if need be. This is very much an online Excel spreadsheet type of a interface. So I could come in here and I can just key in all those other costs, and then that's all going to roll up to give me a total here, budget up at the top. So it's saying to do this particular support customers using mobile epic / project, I'm going to need about $761,000 to do so based off of that resource plan and any of the other costs that I've then added in. So now we have more information around this project, right? We can better understand the resources, the financials around it, what it's going to take to do this, what's the scope of both the resource and the financial requirements. I have some basic information around this epic, as well as I can build out a business case and such around these different items. And now I'm ready to go and do my portfolio analysis and do some prioritization and figure out really what am I going to do, when am I going to be able to do it within the resource and cost constraints that I have. So to do that, I'm going to go into the portfolio analysis module here, And so this would be done more by like a portfolio manager, or maybe even a group of like a steering committee, something like that, is going to review all of these different requests that are coming in against all of the different projects that are already actively going on. And I'm going to do some what if analysis here and figure out how I can mush these new things in without pushing us over our budget constraints and our resource constraints. And so to do that, I'm now here on the portfolio view, and I'm simply going to put this into a full screen mode so we have a little bit more room to look at things here. And so what this is now showing me is all of those projects and epics and such. In this case, I have it grouped up by portfolio, and you can see some of those KPI indicators that we're looking at here as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my view to my prioritization view, and we can go in and start doing some prioritization on this guy. So now that I'm here on my prioritization view, you can see those different metrics that we might be tracking. In this case, in this view, we have it set to do a little bit more traditional scoring method instead of WSJF. You can see here, I'm using things like strategic alignment and how much is this going to help lower my costs, improve employee retention and risk to generate out my prioritization score over here. But I can also include other things in my view, depending on what I want to see while I'm making these prioritization choices, things like what's the budget and what's the benefits of these guys. I could include other financial metrics here possibly, like say IRR or NPV or ROI, whatever I might want as I'm doing this, so that when I'm doing my prioritization, I have some relevant information in front of me to help me make those choices, right? So I'll flip this into prioritization mode, and now I can simply just drag and drop to update prioritization. So if I see, hey, there's a high score one way down here, this white phones one should probably be bumped up, then I can come here and I can drag and drop and move that up to the proper place that I might want it. And I go, oh, the CEO though really wants this Fabricam one done, even though it's not the highest prioritization score, maybe I want to drag that up. And oh, this one's a compliance project, we have to do this even though it's not as high, so on and so forth. And so you can drag and drop and create a stacked rank of all of your different projects, with the highest ranked ones at the top, the lowest ranked ones down here at the bottom. And that's kind of the first step of this, figuring out what are your priorities. And as new things come in, you can continue to readjust this, say every month, every quarter, as frequently as you want to do so. You can come back and revisit these plans and then make adjustments as needed. Once you've done that, now we need to overlay some of our constraints on top of this. This is all great. These are our priorities, and people are asking these things to be done within specific periods of time. But how is that going to affect our constraints? The first constraint being dollars. We only have so much money, so much budget to go and do these projects. Let's see how that's going to work out. So what this is doing in this bottom screen now then is it's showing all of those same projects here, and it's showing their budgets, and it's summing that up across the top here. So we can see if we do all of these projects when people are asking for them to be done, this is how much we're going to spend. And right now I'm looking at it by month, but I could switch this over to be by quarter or by year if need be, depending on what level of detail I want. I can then create a target. For example, in 2019, I have a target budget of a certain amount of dollars, right? We can only spend across all of these projects that we're looking at here, or this portfolio or this department, if I had filtered this down just to show a specific group of projects, we only have a specific budget in any given period of time. And so now you can see when I overlay that target here, it's going to then show me where I'm over, where I'm under. For example, in June, I only have $400,000 in my budget to spend for all these projects, but I'm currently projected at $552,000. So that's going to be a problem. So now what I need to do is some what if analysis to figure out how I'm going to resolve these budget issues. The first thing that I can do is I can come down to the bottom, or the lower priority items down here at the bottom here, and I can simply start to uncheck these. And as I do that, that's saying, what if we don't do this, and or if we put it on hold if it was already an active project, for example. That basically reloads the grid down here at the bottom and updates this accordingly. And so as I continue to check off more of these guys are going to go green here, and we're going to start to resolve some of our budget issues because we're just simply doing less things. I can then recheck those there and say, well, if that's not an option, it's not a matter of doing it or not, it's just a matter of when. Then I can open up my Gantt over here on the side, my timeline view of this, And maybe I'll zoom out a little bit to show this by quarter here. And I can still come to some of these lower priority items and go, okay, what if I move this out, 1 quarter, 2 quarters, whatever it might be, and I stagger these a little bit more so we're not doing all of them at the same time. That's another way that I can resolve some of my constraint conflicts down here, my budget conflicts in this case, right? Then at the same time, I can also look at this from a resource perspective. So maybe my main constraint isn't budget or I want to do both. I need to make sure I'm within my budget and my resources. And I can do all the same types of things here, but while looking at my resource constraints. So I can see all my resources, and where there's reds or there's going to be issues over allocations of particular resources. And again, I can check and uncheck the boxes here to say, what if I don't do this, as well as drag and drop to move things around to see how that's going to affect my resources. Right now, I'm looking at a very detailed view, each individual resource, but you could group this up, say, by business unit or by role and see, okay, where are my kind of higher level constraints? I'm going to have issues with my business analyst within December, January, and February within my current plan. How can we fix that? And my developers, and so on and so forth here. So there's different ways that you can look at this as you're doing it. Once you get a scenario that you like, a plan that's going to work, where you're staying within your budget and your resource constraints, or pretty close to it anyway, you can come here and you can save that as a scenario, and then you can come back to it at any point. And maybe I save a couple scenarios. Scenario A, we're going to not do these 5 lower priority things. Scenario B, we're just going to push them out 2 quarters or whatever it might be. And then we as a business can make that choice of which scenario we're going to go with, and then commit to that and move on to the next step. Also here within the portfolio analysis module, I can flip over into my Kanban board. So within my Kanban board, this isn't a Kanban board of like tasks and backlog items and things like that. This is a Kanban board of my actual projects / epics that are going on right now. And so I can visually see all of these higher level projects, what status they're in. I have it colored here by overall health. So you can see if it's red, then it's off track. If it's yellow, then it's at risk. If it's green, then it's on track, that kind of a thing. And you can see we can do things here like totals. Right now I'm totaling up budget up to the top, but maybe instead of budget, I want to total up, benefits instead. So you can kind of flip these things on the fly and even group these different ways. Maybe I want to group this up by business unit so I can see which ones are going on in which business unit, or group these up by program or whatever it might be. You can flip to different views here to show the Kanban board different ways that you might want to visually see those things. So that's a very useful way of visualizing where your projects are at and how they're organized, as well as then you can drag and drop to align things, in this case, say to different programs, or update priorities or statuses or whatever it might be, very quick and easy. There's also a very high level roadmap view in here, and the roadmap is configurable as well. So right now I have it grouped up by stage, but again, I could group this up by other things here. I have it colored by overall health. So again, if it's red, it's off track, yellow at risk, green is on track. You can also see my progress percentage on these guys here with the little colored shading on each one of these bars to see how far into this we are so far. And there's dependencies that show here. So you can create dependencies between your different projects and epics. And you can see these lines here, and if I hover over it, it'll tell me what it's connecting to. So I can visualize those dependencies within my roadmap. Right now I'm looking at it by month, but again, I could do this by quarter or by year, or even more detailed by week if I wanted to. And then once I get it the way I want it, I can either print this out or there's Power BI reports that I can utilize and distribute to people that look very similar to this and show the timeline / roadmap as well. Right from here, you can also get to your dashboards and reports. So as these projects are actually being executed on, and you want to visualize some of those Power BI reports, you don't have to leave and go somewhere else to do that. You can do so right from here. So there's a pre-built report pack that shows you all different types of information around these different projects that are going on, everything from an overall summary of my projects and some red, yellow, green indicators on those KPIs and budgets and forecast actuals, whatever you might be tracking around these. There's some templatized reports here you can start from, as well as I can look at other things like my resources and see how my resources are doing, and so on and so forth here, and everything all the way down into more detailed information like, say, issues and risks. Like I want a risk matrix of all the risks across all these projects and such. It's all built into this templatized report pack, which then can be tweaked. You can change how things are grouped and filtered and add in some of your custom fields, and or add whole new reports if there's some specific things that you're looking to report off of out of all this great data. So once you have your roadmap built and you've done your portfolio analysis and you figured out what you're going to do and when you want to do it, so far we've done only top-down planning, meaning we've done very high-level planning, capacity and demand out into the future and budgeting and so on and so forth. We haven't really got into the more detailed execution planning on these things yet. And I'm going to put this back into full screen mode here. And so to do that, I can come in and I can go, you can see here, excuse me, you can see here that these different projects, each one can be managed using different execution tools. So for example, some of these projects can be managed using Project Desktop Professional. Some of these you'll see are using Jira and or Teams and Project Desktop. You can actually use a combined set of different tools. This particular one is using Project Desktop and Azure DevOps to manage the execution side of all the different work that's going on. So meaning you can have some projects that are using just Agile tools, some that are using more waterfall scheduling tools, or even hybrid projects that are using a mixture of both. You can use that all right from here. I'm going to go into one of these projects that's doing just such a hybrid project, so to say, and I'm going to go into my support customers using mobile project here, and I'll show you a little bit more of how that works. So when I come into here, you'll see I'm on the work plan tab here, and the work type is task. And so what you can do is you can build out your work plan either using the new project for the web that just recently came out, that was launched during this last Ignite, that Jim mentioned a little bit, or you could use Project Professional Desktop to build out your schedule and then publish that into here. In this case, that you'll see that this particular project is connected to Project Professional. And so that's where all these different tasks and such come from, and then people can start to update their status on them, as well as possibly track time if you want to use the timesheet capability built into here. At the same time, I can flip to my backlog work type. And so these particular backlog items that you're seeing here, features, user stories, tasks, bugs, and such, are actually rolling in from Azure DevOps. So you'll see that this is integrated to Azure DevOps, and it's rolling in all that work so you can get visibility into the backlog, the status of these items, as well as, if need be, you can track time on these and so on and so forth as well, just like those waterfall tasks that you saw earlier. And so you could use one or the other. You might just use Azure DevOps for some of them and let all that status roll up, or you could use a waterfall tool like Project Desktop, Project Professional, or even a lighter weight scheduling tool like the Office 365 Planner, and still let all that work roll up into one portfolio so you have one place to go to see the status of all your different projects and report off of them and so on and so forth. On the top of all that, you can also look at resource capacity. So if I'm more of a resource manager role in our organization, I can come in and I can see, which resources are working on what, who's over allocated, who's not, regardless of what methodology you're actually executing on the work, because we have those high-level resource capacity plans. As long as we're keeping those relatively up to date, we can get a better picture of who's working on what, what's upcoming, and who's over allocated and not within any particular period of time here. So for example, Daniel Williams is over allocated in the first 4 months here, and the reason being is because he has 4 different projects going on at the same time. Maybe we need to get him some help, and so I can drag and drop and move things around and make adjustments from here as more of a resource manager role as need be. So as Jim mentioned, though, all of these great capabilities that we just looked at as we went through all this are all available through Teams as well. So if your organization has adopted Teams, is utilizing Teams, and or just certain user groups are using Teams, and they want to work with all of these great capabilities we just saw through Teams, we can do that as well. So here I'm logged into Teams, and I'm in my ePMO team that we have set up here with a lot of these great capabilities. So the first thing that you'll see is there's a conversation stream here. So if you want to make use of the Teams conversation streams and other things, like I might want to use files to store all of my templates here and make that available to people instead of and/or in place, or and/or at the same time as throwing them on that homepage of that SharePoint site, we can do those types of things here as well. Remember that ideas list that I went into, and we looked at, a place where people could put in all of their different ideas and submit those, and then we could do prioritization on those and such, using that SharePoint list. So this is still powered by SharePoint, but it's showing here in Teams, and it's not just a picture of it or anything like that. This is a live working list that I come in and create a new idea from, update status, and come here and do things like convert those into programs and epics like I showed earlier. All of the things that we just saw over in one plan for portfolio management, whether it be the resource planning, the financial planning, the portfolio analysis, so on and so forth, all of those same capabilities that we just saw and went through with the what if analysis and the Kanban board and all that, those are actually all available right here through Teams as well if I choose to work through Teams instead, if I like that experience on top of this. And again, this isn't just a picture of things, this is live working. I could come in and switch to my Kanban board and go into my roadmap or whatever I might want to do, all right here, right from within Teams as well if I want to work that way. And the same with those Power BI dashboards and such as well. That's all really built into this. And then from there, you can add as many tabs as you want. As Jim mentioned, there's a whole plethora of different tools that you might be using to manage your projects, whether that's Jira or whether you have reports in Power BI or you've built Power Apps to help support this process or whatever other tools you might be using. You can come in and add in tabs in this team to those other things. So you have one place to go to really get access to all the different tools and capabilities needed to manage and execute on these different projects, all here from one place. While tying in all of the other great capabilities like chat and calls and things I can do and I can act on right from here instead of having to go somewhere separate to go do that as we're actually working on these different projects and I'm communicating with people and getting status updates and whatever it might be. One more thing I'll show you right here is if I flip into, say, my Power BI reports tab, those same reports that we were looking at earlier can be all accessible right through here through within Teams as well. So if I'm a manager or someone like that and I need to get access to reports, this is a nice way to share those with people. Post it into a tab in a team and then people can come in and they can get access to all those reports that way if that makes sense. So Teams can really be the window or the user experience that kind of ties all of these different capabilities and applications that you're using to work on all your projects together, as well as adding on some communication and collaboration features on top of it. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Jim for a few more closing notes, and then we'll let you guys get out of here today. So back to you, Jim.
All right, well, thank you, Matthew. I appreciate the detailed demonstration and all of the capabilities that we have, both within SharePoint and through within Teams, both all through Office 365. So let's summarize and wrap up a little bit about what we saw here today. First off, today's modern user experience is expected by today's workforce, especially emerging more and more with the millennial workforce being a higher percentage of the workforce that we have out there. And that Office 365 is a business productivity platform that's been used by many, many organizations today, and it continues to grow. Microsoft Teams, as fast growing as it is, provides a common forum for all communications and all work as a hub. And OnePlan provides a hybrid PPM solution for Office 365 that can be rendered or enabled within both Teams and within SharePoint, all parts of what people have in Office 365 today. So we leverage Office 365 and Teams to extend the value of that platform. The things that we showed here today, SharePoint and Teams out of the box does not provide all that portfolio, resource capacity, financial capabilities that we saw there today. So it really extends the value of your adoption of that technology. And we can incorporate tools appropriate for user role, maturity, and types of work. As Matthew showed, there's an ever-growing number of tool sets that can be incorporated and made as tabs within teams that are set up or within areas of SharePoint such that we can actually make sure that we have all of the ways that we want to do work accommodated. It also supports a variety of execution methodologies. So whether it's waterfall types tools, whether it's agile type tools, or even some more unstructured types of work for lighter weight projects, all can be accommodated within this platform. It also improves overall adoption by your users by streamlining access and navigation, by meaning having a focal point in tools that we're already using and familiar with. It makes it easier for people to get on board. And if we have that easier access and a better user experience, it's going to drive better participation and compliance with the data that we're going to need to serve the needs of the organization. Overall, we're going to get better collaboration cross-functionally across all areas of the business by enabling these tool sets. And as you can see here, this is all available today. So for those of you that aren't familiar, Wickersoft, we were founded in 2002 as a joint venture with Microsoft. Microsoft is actually still a part owner of our company. We have a global footprint with over 6,500 employees. And we're proud to say that in 2019, we were named the Worldwide PPM Partner of the Year. And we have a number of gold certifications. We're a full service firm. We can provide all the PPM technical consulting and advisory services that you need, whether it be implementation services of different scales and approaches, whether it be the education and training that you might want, both on the discipline and on the tools themselves. We provide ongoing support for our customers, as well as advisory services on the discipline and the processes, and advisory consulting on standing up PMOs and change management and all the other areas around that, as well as helping you with some contingent staffing if need be. We'd like to make you a special offer today. If you're interested in what you saw today, but trying to get a handle on what it would take to get into a solution like this, we'd like to offer you a free PPM workshop that where we can review your current use of Project Online, Microsoft Project, or other project management tools, and assess your current requirements and desired future state, and determine how we would implement or migrate into this new project or one plan solution that we have. And then provide an implementation roadmap for best adoption success based upon where you're at as an organization, to kind of meet your organization where it's at, but move it on the path forward. And ultimately get you an idea what the total cost of ownership would be. So next steps, you could take us up on this workshop if it's something that you're interested in doing and serious about doing something in the near term. Alternately, if you're not at that stage, or you're still looking and kicking some tires and looking to do some serious evaluation, though, we can actually set you up with a trial of the technology we saw here today and provide you some chaperoned Wickersoft support so that we can get the most out of that trial experience. Or even if you're just still kind of shopping around, we can offer you a more personalized one-on-one demo for your organization based on your requirements instead of the more generalized one that Matthew did today. If you'd like us to take us up on any of these things, email us at contactus@wickersoft.com. You can check out more information on it at us.wickersoft.com or at oneplan.ai. And we do webinars like this all the time, and we record them, so we have a whole library of on-demand ones, and we have some upcoming webinars at us.wickersoft.com/webinars. Also, on the OnePlan side, out on Microsoft's App Source, there are some trial access available for the adaptive portfolio management things that you saw today. If you'd like that trial, but maybe some chaperone support, feel free to contact us, and we'll help to facilitate that for you and make sure you get the most out of it. Upcoming webinars. Next week at this time, we'll be doing the new adaptive Microsoft PPM with Microsoft Project, Azure DevOps, and Jira, using the new Power Apps platform that Microsoft has announced, and the direction that they're heading with the Power Apps and the Common Data Service. Also on December 17th, we'll be doing unified work management with Project Online and the new project for the web. And once again, it's us.wickersoft.com/webinars. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for participating today. Once again, this is a high-level overview, and if we can help you determine the fit for you and your organization, feel free to reach out and we'll help you in any way that we can. You folks have a great day, and thank you again for joining.